conserve your cash, you've got to make sure you don't spend money on things that you don't need to spend money on. You're trying to spend as much on the development of products and development of technology as you can. I think there's a point at which if a company is successful and transition is likely to happen, not very many people are able to adapt to the skills that you need to start from ground zero and take it to a publicly traded company. That's the direction the company goes in. So, and I think that happens, that evolves naturally. I think most times people are able to identify that there are certain skills that are now more needed on a day-to-day basis that may be better served by somebody else. And if you make that transition at the right time, it's value creating. So everybody wins.
Scott, your thoughts?
Well, usually we like to have some kind of a strong management team in place after the seed round or as the company is starting to move into Series A. Our network of clients includes many executives of companies, big and small, in a wide variety of disciplines and areas of expertise. And even more importantly, we have a lot of former executives of companies who are looking for their next thing. I always say to everybody, I'm really interested in you. I'm really even more interested in you when you quit your job, because then you're looking for the next thing to do. The best kind of CEO is a free CEO. An even better CEO is a CEO who pays you to hire them by investing in your company. So in a lot of cases, if we're brought in to raise $1 million or $750,000 or $1.5 million or whatever, what we're going to be looking for and trying to help raise money, the people we're going to try and help raise money from are strategic individuals that have more than just money to offer. And whether that's an actual CEO role or a CFO role or something like that, or more of kind of an advisory relationship, a board of advisors kind of thing that could transition when the time's right. Those strategic individuals are out there, and we have a lot of them under the same roof.
Well, thanks. So let's talk a little bit about the presentations that we saw today. I'd like each of you to sort of share with us, to the extent you're comfortable, whatever advice or input you would offer for any of the four presenters. Larry, why don't we start with you?
Okay. I think to start with, a single sentence saying exactly what it is that you do, then what's that business or the medical problem that you're solving? Why hasn't it been solved yet? What's the market size based on the disease state? What's the patient size? And you can do that research. So you want to know what the addressable market is. And I think most of the presenters, I think did a fairly good job describing what they do. But investors want to know the risks that are involved in how you as the CEO are going to de-risk it. So what's your regulatory approval pathway? How quick do you think it will take? And what are those milestone inflection points that you're going to hit? Talk about reimbursement, whether it's required, or if it is required, what's your strategy? I think the science is interesting, but we as investors assume the science. Let's assume the science works. Yeah, we're going to do the due diligence to confirm that, but then take us from there. What's the revenue model? How are you going to make money? And that also goes hand in hand with reimbursement. What's the current therapy? What's the current baseline of therapy? How will you be better? And why will doctors either switch to your compound? Who are your key opinion leaders? And things like that.
Steve?
Well, I think you actually heard this morning a mix of sciences and technologies. Some were like in Lloyd's case, it's a mouse model. That isn't something It isn't a drug, it's not gonna go through the FDA the same way, it's got a different commercial spin to it. But I think they all share a common thread in that, unfortunately, for the most part, when you're going to make a pitch, you've only got a very limited amount of time. It's not quite as bad as an elevator pitch unless you're going on an old-fashioned elevator. But you don't get a half an hour, you don't get an hour until you've caught someone's attention.
That's why we give them 8 minutes.
And in 8 minutes, the science is not the thing that's going to necessarily drive the conversation. The conversation is going to be, as you were just saying, and it can't be overemphasized, because we hear lots of presentations, and you either get our attention, which may be luck, or whether we're awake that particular morning or otherwise, but getting our attention is that you really understand the problem you're solving, you really understand why your solution works, you really understand what everybody else is doing, because sometimes in a science world, you're driven by the academic community and not what the market is actually doing and how the customer is ultimately going to use what you got to do, and why you're going to win. Then you get down to, okay, here's what it means to me financially, here's how much money I need, here's how I'm going to use the money, and your 8 minutes are up. So the science is important, but as has been said, I think that the assumption will be that I'm not here to challenge the science. I'm going to assume that the science makes sense, but tell me why this should get my attention so that I should learn about the science. And that's not easy. So the orientation, I think, needs that evolution for all the pitches.
Greg?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the presentations were very interesting this morning. I think it's a variety of different types of technologies, with different types of applications, and different types of markets. I would just echo Steve. I think at this stage, it's all about trying to make it the pitch as concise as possible, to get the right, get in front of the right people, and use your 2 minutes to really make an impact. And I think it's difficult, as people have said here, to really get too deep into the science within that short amount of time. It's really about trying to get people to buy into the concept and the market opportunity and the likelihood of being the ultimate winner in that space. So I think that that's part of it. The other part of it is getting in front of the right people, and as many of them as possible. Evangelize the great idea that you've got, and try to bring in early supporters, preferably with capital.
Scott?
I would say to you guys and to any entrepreneurs out there, if you don't have 1,000 friends on LinkedIn, you're nuts. Okay? Engage with everybody on social networking who is a fan or interested in your product. And then I would say go get yourself educated on the Jobs Act and on the regulatory changes that are affecting early stage capital formation. And talk about the Jobs Act in everything that you do, because the Jobs Act is a real important thing for venture capital investors who are looking not only to invest in great technologies, but also get out of the stuff they got into. The Jobs Act is really a big change for that type of flow of capital into earlier stage technologies. And then when the time comes for you when you understand some of those changes, and as the market develops a little bit more, your 1,000 or 2,000 friends on LinkedIn are also going to be your go-to people when you raise capital.
So, guys, can you address for us, is now a good time to be starting a biotech company? Is it a bad time? How is the market? And is there anything in particular that a scientist or someone considering starting a company, like the businesses we've seen today, should do or not do?
Can I start this time?
Sure.
The best time to be a biotech entrepreneur is every day, and the best time to start your company is yesterday. And that's also, I'm also predicting that, markets are going to go up and down, so it's also a lousy time to be a biotech entrepreneur.
You're going to cover your bases.
Well, listen, the biotech market has boomed over the last year. The market has boomed over the last year, but the life sciences market has really boomed over the last year or two. What does that mean? That means things are going to go up and they're going to go down, and then there's, a year from now we might be sitting here talking about the correction of biotechs. Who knows, right? These processes that you're going through are, lifetime processes. You're gonna be, the entrepreneurial spirit in someone goes for, longer than just one market cycle. And, the technologies that I see here today and that I see all around the country are so fabulous and so game-changing in such big markets that not only do you owe it to yourself to get rich and your investors to get rich, but you owe it to the world to make what you see happen in the real world. So I just want to say I was fascinated by all three of you, and I'm looking forward to following up.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you've got a technology developed and you're going to patent it, act fast. You've got a ticking clock. I mean, you may have a 20-year window, but these things typically take a lot longer time than we all might like. So the earlier you get started forming a company and trying to advance this towards something that's commercializing the product, because once that patent expires, that's the end of that product. So it's good to have a pipeline of things earlier stage that you can do as well. But once you've got the intellectual property patent filed, move forward. You got to move fast.
Steve?
I guess there is a global question in terms of what is the biotech market, and I agree every day is a good day, but I guess we tend to approach the problem, though, as one science and one technology and one company at a time. So is it right for that company? Is it right for that particular market? Is that science in the right position to be taken forward? Because a winner should be a winner, and I don't think there's anything going on in the marketplace that will keep a winner from being a winner, other than the team's ability to execute and the objective view of it. But I would like to echo the last thought, and that's that it's a non-starter if there isn't some means of protecting what's been done. So you need to be prepared in this elevator pitch to say, this is what I filed on, this is what I think the arena looks like, we've checked our freedom to operate, this is something that I can bring forward. And if it's only by trade secret, there's a secret sauce in the way we make our model, then you need to explain that, if that's what it is and how you're going to protect it. And these days, especially in the patent world, where it's now first to file instead of first to invent, you've got to protect yourself by getting out there and getting these things on file before you're out talking to VCs or other funding sources.
Yeah, I love this industry. I think that it's a great time to be in the market for a couple of reasons. One is we're all living longer, and with that comes chronic conditions, and the two main focuses are improving patient outcomes and reducing costs. So if you can show how you do both, that increases your chances of winning. And as you have mentioned, it's all about executing the strategy. So understand the market, understand what are those milestones that you need to achieve to move to that next level. And typically will be moving from one phase of a clinical trial to the next. And then always be looking at either licensing or acquisition of your company. Because typically companies, especially biotechs, don't have the capital to commercialize. So most of the deals that are being done now are acquisitions from big and medium-sized pharma, and the deals are pretty rich. Large upfront fees, milestone payments, and royalties. So one other strategy that we like to use is in terms of big pharma, just because you've talked to them, say, a year ago, and they might not have been interested, they might have recently failed a clinical trial. Happens all the time, happens every day. We look at what's recently failed across all of the pharma companies, and that's an opportunity for you to start talking to that particular company, obviously if it's in that therapeutic area.
So now let me just ask one more question, and we'll throw it open for questions from the audience. sort of turning on its head something I asked about earlier, what would you say would be the biggest mistake that would be common to these kinds of companies that our presenters should try to avoid?
I think not truly understanding the market. So you know the science, but don't be a technology looking for a problem. Be a technology that's solving a problem. For example, with the diabetes, there's so many additional opportunities that by curing diabetes cures other things like wounds. Most diabetics have wounds, which that's another suck on the healthcare system. So it's what they call pharmacoeconomics. So understand the economics behind your solution and how it not only improves patient outcomes, but reduces costs.
So I would start with the same point. I think that the easiest thing for a scientist, the easiest mistake for a scientist to make is that not recognizing the translation from their own exciting science to what problem they're actually solving in the marketplace, and scoping what that market impact is. Because sometimes you say, I can solve this problem, and then you actually go and look and you realize when you take the right slice of the right piece of the right market, you end up with $5 million in sales, which may make a great little company, but it may not be an opportunity for a VC or an outside investor to jump in. And the second thing is more of a footnote, but it sometimes becomes an obstacle, and that's recognizing the value of what you've done economically when you go to raise money, because there's no faster turnoff to a potential investor than hearing that, I think my company's worth $50 million, I want to raise 10 from you, so I'm going to give you 1/6 of my company. That's a non-starter for most early stage investors. So you need to come into it with a practical view of how much of my company am I going to own when I'm finished? What do the later stages look like? And just reasonableness usually wins out, but you need to understand that is a factor in attracting investment.
Yeah, I would echo that a little bit too. I think early stage companies are not likely to get valuations in excess of single-digit millions, and so I think you need to be prepared for that at the outset. The other thing I would just say is I think it's also important that you don't try to cover too much ground with one small company. That's one thing that people, so many millions of dollars have been wasted on trying to accomplish too many things and not be concentrated and focused on what you're really out there to achieve. And if it doesn't work, be prepared to change direction and not try to pursue all avenues at the same time. Some it dilutes the work that you're doing, and with a small team, it's virtually impossible to be all things to all people.
I would say that probably the biggest mistake that I've seen is, well, 1A and 1B. Taking the easiest money that you can get is probably a big mistake. You need to raise X dollars and somebody offers you 1/10 of X and you say, boy, if I can just get that money, I can do something or other, and so on and so forth. But that ties you up into obligations and investments that might not be as useful for you when you're trying to finish that raise. And the other thing that I would just think about is assuming what happened over the last couple of years is going to continue to be the case. It's probably really the best way to describe it. Science, in science you hope for things that are reproducible, right? That you do this experiment and it's going to happen over and over and over again to keep doing the experiment. But investor perceptions and market fluctuations and so on and so forth are anything but normal. And if you just assume that what you're hearing now at these conferences and venues like this is going to be just the opposite 3 years from now, you're probably right. So You know, 3-4 years ago, early stage investing was really sucking wind, and now all of a sudden it's kind of cool again, right? And so, you know, a couple of years ago, it was hard to do biotech deals. Now they're doing there's a lot of biotech deals. You know, just as a guy who's been in the market for 25 years, I can tell you that those cycles will continue.
Right, so to summarize for you guys, if you're gonna go out and raise investment capital, understand your business, your market, your competition. You know, the science is great, it's critical, but it's not everything. Be realistic in your valuation expectations, be reasonable. And understand the need to manage the development of your management team from early stage through professionalization. We'll take some questions from the audience. Joe?
Thanks, Neil. I was hoping that, Larry, you could elaborate a little bit on your view of M&A and licensing transactions between big pharma and earlier stage companies. The sense I'm getting is they're looking earlier. I've seen a range of IND stage assets getting upfront payments between $8 and $15 million, which for a startup biopharmaceutical drug development company is actually pretty attractive. Can you validate that or talk a little bit more about those early stage transactions?
Yeah, no, I would agree. It used to be big pharma would want to invest after the compound has been de-risked, which was typically middle to the end of phase 3. Now I'm seeing acquisitions at the end of phase 1, which a typical phase 1 is just tox, but no efficacy. So if you could do say a phase 1/2A. So yeah, to your point, acquisitions are being done earlier. And to everyone's point here, it's if you can show that it's a big market, that you're unique, and here's the IP that you have, you've got a good chance. The other thing that big pharma is doing is collaborating more with biotech companies. So it may not be a typical straightforward license deal. There may be a collaboration piece. So there's an upfront, but big pharma will also help from a lab, an R&D perspective where it's needed. And yeah, the deals are definitely being done and earlier.